Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Trey Taylor.
Happy Wednesday. It's Wellness Wednesday. In It Together, SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. Good afternoon. I'm Trey Taylor. Well, August is National Mindfulness and Happiness Happens Month. And I'm telling you, when we were discussing who to invite to talk about this, only one person came to mind for me, Marianne Williamson. She is a best-selling author and national renowned spiritual and thought leader, and has made her life's work helping people and entities live and create a better, happier, thoughtful life for themselves and also for others. Today, we'll discuss how you can achieve mindfulness and lasting happiness. Marianne, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always wonderful to see you and to be with you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Same to you. We'll come right back with more with Marianne Williamson, but first, your COVID community update. Lexington District 1 is starting the school year with over 1,000 students in quarantine, including 300 who have tested positive for COVID, 50 being staff. The district does not plan to change their back-to-school plan, which includes expanding nursing staff, facilitating air purification, and contact tracing. The affected students will receive virtual class instruction. And then there were 4 candidates for mayor of Columbia, South Carolina. Former City Councilman Mo Badura has thrown his hat in the ring, registering on the last day of filing. We've spoken to 3 of those running, of course, Sam Johnson, Daniel Rickerman, and Tamika Isaac Devine. Hopefully, we'll get Mo Badura on the show also. And finally, if you're looking for a job, there are several hiring events coming up in the next couple of days. Tomorrow, DJJ, Department of Juvenile Justice, is hiring. They're going to have a job fair tomorrow from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. A second chance employment fair is happening Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Drew Wellness. That's for ex-offenders. And the United States Postal Service is having a hiring event also Saturday from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. You can stop by the post offices in Camden, Sumter, Casey, West Columbia, Chapin, Lexington, and the Walmart in Orangeburg. SCDHEC has your most up-to-date list of times, dates, and locations for COVID testing in and around South Carolina. Visit scdhec.gov for more information. Now, also, you can, if you are a veteran, the VA is handling everything for veterans as far as vaccinations are concerned. So make sure you look at that information on the screen for information about veterans. Also, CVS pharmacies are having several COVID vaccinations events. So if you are need to go by a CVS pharmacy, make sure you do that. And also, Target stores, the Target stores that have CVS's in them, they are also doing COVID vaccinations. Kroger pharmacies are also doing vaccinations in those stores as well. Now, if you or someone you know is having a challenge making their COVID vaccination appointment, Get Set Up is helping seniors to get set up with their vaccine appointment. Also, the Comet bus system is giving free rides to get your vaccination. Now, they are no longer doing the vaccinations at their main location, but they are offering free rides. Don't miss your shot. Catch the Comet to get a free ride to get your COVID vaccination. Now, not only that, FEMA is continuing to offer reimbursements for funeral expenses. You can see that information on the screen. The FEMA event is all going on right now. Also, in addition to that, don't forget that there are several resources available if you need some financial assistance, including Lexington County. Their county officers are offering financial assistance. Richland County is also offering financial assistance. All you have to do, again, the information is on the screen, is to go to the website and apply. SC Housing has partnered with Dominion Energy to also offer assistance for not only housing, but also bills, your electricity bill, and also they're helping frontline workers with their first housing purchase. SC Hopes is being sponsored by the Department of Mental Health here in South Carolina. And if you are having some challenges coping with COVID, be sure to contact the folks at SC Hopes. Finally, we spoke with Solicitor Byron Gibson last week on No Justice, No Peace, and they are holding a series of no jail, no judge events in Columbia. You can see the dates: August 31st, September 1st, September 7th, and September 8th at the Trinity Baptist Church Convention Center in Columbia, South Carolina. That's near 5 Points. And again, as Solicitor Gibson told us last week, all you have to do is stop by without fear of being arrested and try to clear up your warrant. You'll get another court date and they'll try to help you with that. Again, that's no judge, no jail. If you or someone you know needs this assistance, don't forget to stop by Trinity Baptist on the 4 dates. If we can get that flyer back up, that would be great. We want to make sure people get this information that they definitely need. Coping with COVID is streaming live on the TaylorMade production page. Can you please go over there and hit like and follow so that not only you can watch Coping with COVID Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and also first Monday with comedian George Wallace, you can also get all of your COVID-related updates. We're also streaming live on YouTube. I want to say hi to all of you YouTubers. Thank you so much for joining us. We also have a presence on Instagram. Now, we are also streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. Please go over there also and hit like and share and follow. And not only can you find some great information and you can watch the show, you can also get information on diabetes prevention programs on the In It Together Facebook page. Want to thank everybody for watching so far. Mitchell Peace Joy Jen says, good afternoon. Hello. Hope everybody's well. Thank you, Mitchell. Also, Betty Fisher says, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to you, ladies. And please post and share this information out because this is going to be such a great conversation, I know, with Marianne Williamson. Now, August is National Mindfulness and Happiness Happens Month. And when we talked about who we wanted to invite to discuss this, only one person came to mind, and it is Marianne Williamson, the best-selling author of 14 books, including 4 New York Times bestsellers, is a political activist, spiritual thought leader who has dedicated 3 decades of her life helping people, healing communities, and fostering effective communication between large corporations and government entities. She has been a longtime proponent of reparations for African Americans. Her nonprofit has delivered over 13 million meals to those with critical illnesses, also HIV and AIDS. And when she ran for president back in 2019, you may have heard her talk about her initiatives, including the Department of Peace and Department of Children and Youth, to address the trauma for millions of American children. Marianne, thank you again so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm always happy to talk to you.
Thank you.
We've been through a lot together, and it's always fun to get back together and talk.
Thank you so much. Same here. I want to say hi to Johanna Bridgette. Hey there, Johanna. Thank you so much for joining us. You ladies, go ahead and post and share this information out. So, Marianne, before we get into the question about mindfulness and happiness, what have you been up to in these 2 years? Can't believe it's been 2 years since we were together running around South Carolina with your presidential race.
Well, like everybody else, COVID has impacted my life, changed things for me. A lot of staying at home, being at home, trying to transition your work to Zoom and doing the things that you and I are doing, as opposed to going out, giving talks, different places. And of course, like everybody else as well, and much like you're talking about on your show today, dealing with the sort of emotions that come up for that. Now, for me, first, after the campaign trail, I had a lot of emotions to work through, as you can imagine, a lot of kind of personal healing, because that situation was half exhilaration and half brutality. But that year past COVID, I had surgery that was difficult to get over. But I'm feeling, I think that this latest, the way that COVID is upon us again in a way we didn't think it would be, the fact that so many of us who are vaccinated are now hearing about people who are dealing with breakthrough cases. I'm kind of stunned by all of that and living with all of that. Oh my goodness, we're putting masks on again inside that we weren't before. I'm going through what everybody else is going through. I think that that's one of the almost ironic benefits of this experience, is that we're all going through the same things, and that gives us a greater sense of common commonality is
Yeah.
we're just human beings doing the best we can with a difficult situation.
Yeah, you're so right. I think COVID has been such the great equalizer.
Yeah, it has been.
And when we get into the conversation, we'll talk about this. I think there are people who are dealing with it differently, definitely, and maybe better, than other people are.
Yeah, well, so even if you have two of the same situations, two different people will inhabit the situation in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think, you deal with difficulty the way you deal with life.
Mm.
So, you want to develop musculature in life that enables you to move with greater equanimity through difficult times. And I think some of us are, in a way, perhaps more prepared for that than others have been. I'm particularly resentful, though, Trey, because I do feel that the government should have just given everybody $2,000 a month to move through this. So those of us who are not dealing with serious survival issues economically can't even relate to what it means for some people. I mean, we're not talking about it as a country the way we should be.
Yeah.
You and I, of course, have had these conversations. We've been down in rural South Carolina. Let's be real. We already had serious hunger issues in the United States. COVID has exacerbated that. We already have people who are living near poverty even before COVID, and this has exacerbated that. So it concerns me that we're not having that conversation more. We're just sort of pushing it to the side. Because that's what our society too often does.
Yeah.
And once again, going back to, if we'd just given everybody $2,000 a month to make it through this, it would have enabled a lot more people to stay home, not have to worry about going out, which meant less infection spread. And like so much in this country, and you and I know this and have talked about this so much, we continue to do things, as we're now seeing with the climate, as we're now seeing with Afghanistan. We do things in ways that make problems that perhaps we couldn't have kept from being problems so much worse.
Yeah.
And I think this, like everything else, is giving us a chance to see where this country's gone wrong and where we could do things in a better way.
Yeah, we're talking to spiritual and thought leader Marianne Williamson, best-selling author here on Coping with COVID. In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. I want to remind you, too, that scrolling at the bottom of the screen, several resources are available, whether you are having some financial problems or just need to know where to get a vaccine. Please check the bottom of the screen. That information will be scrolling throughout the show. I want to say hi to Susan Willis. She's joined us, Marianne. Hey, Susan. Thank you so much.
Hello, Susan.
Thank you so much for joining us. So listen, and again, I do want to get your thoughts. And we talked a little bit about COVID, and you talked about the $2,000 a month. Do you think that Joe Biden as president is doing what you would like him to do as much as he can or should be doing? Now, I know you and his wife are friends, so, but what do you think about how he has handled the presidency thus far?
I think that it is tremendously better than if Donald Trump had been reelected. So that's not to be underestimated.
Yeah.
I would like to see a raise in that minimum wage. I would like to see those college loans canceled. I would like to see free college. But I also know that in this bill that they're talking about right now, if they can get it through the Senate, paid family leave, the child tax credit, the community college being free, I think he is trying to do some very good things. The Democrats did pass that bill in the House last night, but we need to do more. We do need to step it up. We need that John Lewis Voting Rights Act. We've got to end the filibuster to make this happen. And that's where all of our attention needs to be, is doing everything we can to exert pressure so that they pass the filibuster. Abolish the filibuster. If they do not abolish the filibuster, then voter suppression bills, voter nullification bills, which, by the way, will particularly affect people of color, will be passed all over this country. So, we're in danger of quite seriously of losing our democracy if we don't abolish that filibuster and move things forward. So it's bigger than just the president.
Yeah. So this month is Happiness Happens Month and Mindfulness Awareness. What is mindfulness, Marianne?
Well, mindfulness is a kind of secular, not threatening way to talk about the spiritual path for people who get a little freaked by religious or spiritual principles. You and I don't, but some people do.
Yeah.
So we came up with this way of talking about it in very secular terms. Fine. But it is the idea of being attentive to every moment with your heart open. That's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about living in a more conscious way. We're talking about the fact that every thought creates form on some level. How many of us can look to big problems in our lives, Trey? Big problems that if only I hadn't said this, if only I hadn't said that, if only I hadn't done that, if only I had done this, if only I hadn't tweeted that, if only I hadn't texted that, if only I kept my mouth shut. That's because in those moments, we were not centered. We were not aligned with the truth of who we are. If you meditate in the morning, you and I would say if you pray or meditate in the morning, some people would say if you do a mindfulness practice in the morning, you align yourself. Just like you take a bath or a shower in order to get the dirt off your body, you meditate, mindful practice, prayer, in order to remove the stress from your mind. Stress makes us make mistakes.
Wow.
And that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about lives that are happier, due in large part to the fact that circumstances are happier, due in large part to the fact that who we were and what we said and did within those circumstances invited harmony and deflected chaos.
Wow.
Now, as far as happiness is concerned, Trey, these are not happy times.
Right.
I don't think we should be pressuring ourselves to be happy. Like there's something wrong with me if I'm not happy.
Right.
I mean, given the state of the world from the issues of the climate to what's happening with refugees in Afghanistan, to all of the things that we've been talking about for so long, criminal injustice and so forth, there's a certain level on which if you're looking at what's happening in the world today and you're not depressed, what is wrong with you?
So you're saying it's okay to feel
sad. Saying that even the happiest life has some sad days.
Right.
And I'm an emotional person. I think many women particularly are.
Yeah.
And I see my deeply emotional nature as a kind of blessing and a curse. The same thing that makes me sensitive to the suffering of others, that makes me passionately committed to try to ameliorate that because I feel it. The flip side of that is I can be thin-skinned. Because that's what a thin skin is. There's a thinner membrane. You feel people's pain, but it also can make you, quote unquote, oversensitive.
Right.
I mean, so I think I know for myself, it's about riding my emotions. And I have for myself, and everybody has their own way of kind of dealing with life. But for myself, Trey, if I'm feeling lonely, if I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling any of those things that would bring me down, what I find is my greatest coping mechanism is let this wave ride through me. Surrender it to God. Don't try to push it down. Don't try to nullify it. Exercise helps. Eating healthy food definitely helps.
Yeah.
Those things are important because they have to do with your brain chemicals and all of that. But sometimes it's just, it's tough. It's lonely. It's a rough moment. And even those times, I wrote a book called Tears to Triumph. And I talk about how this used to be called in the old days, the dark night of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you're sad today, sometimes when you're with your sadness, you learn things about yourself. Sometimes you're sad because you're revisiting things that are hard to revisit, but that you have to. I went through something not too long ago where I was very sad about something. And it made me realize I'm trying to think what the connection was. But there was some connection between what I was thinking about, going through and being sad about, and my realization that there was someone whose email I had not returned and towards whom I had not expressed myself in the most compassionate way. that night I wrote an email to this person and I apologized. Now, I did not hear back from them. I think I kind of burnt it, I'm not Jesus, whatever. But I did what I could.
You did what you were supposed to do, right?
What I was supposed to do, and I hope that it moves me a little closer to a place where next time a situation like that arises, I hope I'll be better. So I learn from times of sadness too. I don't think we have to be quite so afraid of sadness. Not all sadness is a deep spiraling down that we have to be worried about.
Right. So you're saying you can use that to raise your consciousness.
Absolutely.
As to what to do better, differently the next time.
Yeah. Because sometimes when you're sad, okay, there's a relationship in my life that's not doing well. Okay. And I'm sad at the estrangement. But in my sadness, I'm having to think about my part in that.
Right. And that's an opportunity to do better.
That's all that life is lessons in becoming the people God would have us be.
Wow, I love that. We're talking to Marianne Williamson at In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. I'm Trey Taylor. Marianne Williamson joins us today. I want to go backwards when you were talking about mindfulness and how it's just kind of like a centering, a praying of sorts. And like you said, people can do it differently. Does it have to happen, or is it best to kind of recenter yourself, Marianne, in the morning as soon as you wake up?
Oh, mornings are so important, Trey, because morning is when you open your mind. Your mind is most open to new impressions. If you wake up in the morning, go directly for the newspaper, you read about the Taliban and the refugees who can't get out, you go immediately for the computer, immediately for the phone and the text, and somebody's not happy with you and you need to pressure to get a certain something done and you're late or whatever it is, what chance do you have not to be depressed by noon?
Right.
So give, at least in the Course in Miracles, it says 5 minutes spent with the Holy Spirit in the morning is enough to guarantee He will be in charge of your thought forms throughout the day. Just give them 5 minutes. I give my life to God today. Now, there are so many different religious, spiritual paths. There are so many meditation paths. There are so many mindfulness practices. I believe in one truth that expresses itself in many different ways. No particular path has a monopoly on truth. But most of your listeners, most of us know basically the kinds that work for us.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. The issue for most of us is not that we don't know what path calls to us, but that we don't do it on a daily basis. And when you do spiritual practice, it's like your spiritual muscles.
Right.
You have to work out your physical muscles so that you can be strong and react powerfully on a physical level. You work your spiritual muscles so that you can be still and non-reactive and peaceful on an emotional and psychological level. They're both important. And if you feel that physically you've worked out and you look in the mirror and you say, that's good, that doesn't mean you can stop.
Right.
Because the next day, gravity will start pulling it down. Well, same with your spiritual muscles. If you're not working on keeping them up, spiritual gravity is bringing them down. What is spiritual gravity? Anger, depression, anxiety, cynicism,
life,
negativity. Yeah, and life will always be. Listen, if you want reason, you don't have to look very far for reasons these days.
Right.
So we need some emotional discipline, and we need to support each other in that.
Yeah, I love that you say we've got to support each other. So you think not only do you need to have some things for yourself, and you say, just say, God, please help me today, center me today. Do you also, and again, everyone doesn't believe in God, and that's fine. You believe what you believe. Do you think then if you are not a believer, or even if you are, you go through books, whether it be the Bible or the Quran or motivational books, and just pick out some different quotes and scriptures, lines?
I think the spirit working through our subconscious mind is fascinating in the way you will find yourself just opening some book to exactly what you needed to do. You'll hear something even on television or something that was exactly what you needed to hear. I think spirit is always trying to talk to us if we're open. You never know. You never know who's going to say something that's like, you know what? I needed to hear that.
Absolutely.
I also think this business of picking up other people. I went through something the other day. I was supposed to have this counseling session with this young woman. I was feeling a little bit down. I was thinking, oh, this isn't really what I'm in the mood to do. And then I realized, no, this is the best thing. It'll help me get out of myself, get out of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, Trey, one of the parts of the Bible that is very moving to me is, you know, Moses had been given by God a rod, right? It's like the wizard's.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when he could keep it up, the Israelites were victorious. When he was just too heavy to bear, he couldn't. And there were times, then the Israelites would fail. And there were times when it was just too heavy a burden for him to keep the rod up. There's an engraving that I saw. There's a part in the Bible where it says when Moses could not carry the burden of leadership, he could not carry the burden of all he was meant to do, his brother Aaron would hold him up by one shoulder. Somebody named would hold him up by the other shoulder. Who among us cannot relate to that?
Right.
Sometimes we're the person that needs our friends, hold me up. And other times we're the one who says to somebody else. And we have to do that for each other right now because there is so much societal permission for anger.
Yeah.
We're living in this moment where everybody's accusing everybody and getting a lot of social support for being the accuser. Everybody's getting a lot of social support for feeling the victim. And we have to support each other in positivity, I think.
Yeah.
It's interesting that way. Sometimes you think you're supporting someone by telling them you have every right to feel angry. Well, of course you have the right to be angry. It's not going to make you happy.
Right. And do you have the right, to me, not only to be angry, but then to spew it out to everybody else?
You know, that's so interesting because I think that there is that point. Yes, it's good to process emotions, but there's a moment at which the processing becomes self-indulgent. It's one thing to communicate it. It's another thing to spew it.
Yeah.
So the fact that I feel things and I need to allow myself to feel them, yes. But that does not give me license, like you said, to spew it, to project it. You know, there's something about yelling in your pillow.
Yeah.
There's something about the discipline of biting your tongue for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Otherwise, once again, you might write a tweet, you might write a text, and it feels good at the time. And later you go, oh, if only I hadn't done that.
Right. The if I woulda, coulda, shoulda. You know, it's funny. There's a church that I pass by every day when I'm taking Julius to school, and it says, if you want to get the last word, let the last word be I apologize.
Ah, that's good.
Isn't that good?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we have to humble ourselves and just say, I apologize. Even if I think, and you tell me what you think about this, and I just thought about this, even if you don't think you were wrong or you don't think your opinion is incorrect, just apologize maybe for raising your voice or maybe not hearing what the other person said, or just I apologize for my reaction.
I've been through so much of that. You know, I've had so many times in my life where someone will be upset with me. And I remember saying to a friend of mine, what did I say that was wrong? What did I say that was wrong? And he said, how you said it.
Yeah.
What you said was not wrong. How you said it.
Yeah.
You were contemptuous or disrespectful. So sometimes what you're apologizing for is the tone of your voice.
Yeah.
How you express something, even if you were right.
And I think that's where the mindfulness comes in too, don't you?
Being more conscious of who we are, and we are responsible for our effect in the world.
Yeah. Renee Nelson says, greetings. Hey there, Renee. Thank you so much for joining us on Coping with COVID In It Together. And the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. Marianne Williamson joins us. She's a best-selling author, nationally renowned thought leader and spiritual leader. And we've been talking about mindfulness and happiness, how to achieve it and keep it. And we're going to take a quick break, Marianne. When we come back, you talked about this a little bit, but we're going to talk about how do you continue to be happy when things around you are happening. Yeah, we're all dealing with this. Look, I call it COVID 19, 20, and 21. So, um, and we're going through a lot. So when we come back, we'll talk more to Marianne about that. Talk about what different programs she's got in place to help us all become more mindful and more happy. And we're going to talk to her about a couple of her well-known quotes. All of that and so much more coming up next on Coping with COVID. You're watching Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina. Marianne Williamson, more with her next.
You can eat what's good to you and good for you, too.
Yes.
Get the Dash for Southern Soul Cookbook free. All you have to do is ask. It's packed with delicious Southern-style recipes with a healthy twist.
Yummy.
You won't be able to taste the difference, but you will be able to feel the difference.
Yeah.
Inbox your email address to the In It Together or TaylorMade Productions Facebook page, and you'll get it straight to your mailbox. The Dash for Southern Style Cookbook and a Coping with COVID face mask. From In It Together SC, the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina, and Coping with COVID.
Coping with COVID with Trey Taylor.
The Comet gives me a reliable source of transportation.
It's very convenient to me, and they have wonderful drivers.
It's clean and it builds community. It's fun to meet people.
It makes me feel like really independent. It's just fun.
It's always going to be there and it gets me everywhere I need to go.
We try to ride every single day. Comedy is our livelihood.
Computers, they're a part of our everyday life. But when they're not working, they're an everyday problem. So call Computers Unique, your everyday solution. 803-351-5821. Is your computer running slow? Won't turn on? Do you need a screen replaced? Or maybe you just need another computer? Well, Computers Unique is your one-stop shop for all your computer needs. They have a wide variety of new and pre-owned PCs, Macs, and tablets. So call Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. 803-351-5821. 803-351-5821.
Let Palmetto Painting Services take the worry out of your next home painting project. We can paint anything. Our business is about interior painting and exterior painting. We offer services for residential and commercial properties. Restore the life to your home with a fresh coat of paint from Palmetto Painting Services. References are available upon request. Give us a call at 803-546-4570 today.
How will you remember the year 2020?
COVID.
Losing my job.
Working 12-hour shifts in a mask.
Losing my grandma to COVID.
COVID has claimed thousands in South Carolina and strained our health system, schools, businesses, and families. If you're struggling and need to talk, call SC Hopes. That free call can help put you in touch with people who can help. This goes for healthcare workers, teachers, restaurant employees, parents, anyone and everyone. SC Hopes, mental health and addiction support for challenging times.
Thank you so much for joining us on Wellness Wednesday on Coping with COVID. In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. Hey, don't forget to please go over to the TaylorMade production page and hit like and follow and share so you can watch Coping with COVID Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then First Mondays with George Wallace, Fun Day Mondays with George Wallace. We're also streaming live on YouTube. Please hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys for joining us on YouTube. And we are also streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. Listen, go over there and hit like and follow and share also and get some amazing resources on pre-diabetes prevention program on the In It Together Facebook page and also the website. We're talking to best-selling author and nationally known spiritual and thought leader Marianne Williamson. August is a National Wellness and Happiness Happens Month, and Marianne has dedicated her life helping people, healing communities, and fostering effective communication between large corporations and government entities. In each one of her 14 books, it deals with content, theories, and information on how to be a better you for you and others. Marianne, why was that important for you to put that ongoing theme, even in the political book, even in the children's book? You know, it's an ongoing theme of you being a better you so that you can then affect change in the world.
Well, I think we are moving from a transactional to a transformational model of change. Usually when people think of political change, they think if only we could change this one policy or that one policy, then that would make everything better. But the truth of the matter is you could do that, but then some other person is going to be president or somebody else is going to be in charge of Congress, and they flip it back the other way. There has to be a change in the culture. There has to be a change in the way so many of us see things that ultimately turns into political or social change. So it all has to do with what happens inside us. And I think we've been played by a system that benefited from our not going deep in the way we think about political issues, social issues, cultural issues. It's put us all into this kind of survival mode of one kind or another, where we're so busy just having to think about ourselves so we can survive, that we're more tempted to not worry about what's happening on the other side of town, or not worry about what's happening on the other side of the world, or not worried about environmental issues that are going to make the air very difficult to breathe in 10 years or 20 years. So this issue of our being, going back to what you were talking about, mindful, not only of what's happening in my life, but what is happening in other people's lives also. That's the essence of spirituality. The essence of spirituality is knowing it's not just about you. And you can't be happy in life when you're making it all just about you.
Yeah.
We are in this together, and on some deep spiritual level, I think God created us as one. So, how can anybody right now, knowing what's happening, particularly for those women and boys in Afghanistan, it would be almost unseemly to be too happy. It's okay. There's a mature happiness. There's a mature happiness that's not childish. That knows that the greater happiness is based on the idea that God's got all this in his hands. That's where our happiness comes from. Happiness can't just be circumstance dependent. In the Bible, there's a part where Jesus says you can build your house on sand or you can build your house on rock. If you build your house on sand, that means you're happy today if this is happening.
Right.
Today if that's happening. Well, it might not be happening tomorrow and then your house falls down. But your house is built on rock. Then your house remains firm. Your house is built on rock means my happiness is not based on what's happening today. My happiness is not based on what's happening today. My happiness is based on what's happening every day, beyond circumstances. And the fact that I'm on this earth given me by God the power to do what I can to make things right where they're not yet right. That's where you're happy, the real happiness comes from. And I think that we are tempted to forget that. Just looking at you, it's interesting. Like, we were together in some circumstances that were challenging. It was a political campaign. That's one universe. And there's another universe. Isn't it amazing we were brought together at all?
Yes.
Isn't it amazing that we're together right now?
Yeah.
There's the drama, and then there's the bigger drama.
Yeah. Yeah, Johanna Bridget says, thank you, Johanna, for your comment. She says, I appreciate that statement, mature happiness. She said, it defeats the false guilt of flourishing during this pandemic. Interesting. Thank you so much, Johanna. And thank you for the question, because I was going to say that, we're in the midst of a global pandemic, and COVID has certainly affected and still affecting people physically, mentally, emotionally, financially. How do you stay mindful and happy with all of this going on in your life and in the lives of others?
Well, when I practice what I preach, my life works out pretty well.
Yeah.
And I know that my mornings, if I wake up in the morning and I give that time to God, if I do the Course in Miracles, some people do the Course, some people do transcendental meditation, some people do more traditional religious practice. Like I said, one truth spoken in many different ways. You do your readings, you do your inspirational work, you do your yoga, you do your exercise. what I know now, I'm responsible. I'm responsible for whether or not I exercise and move my body, and knowing that will make a difference, Marianne, in your mood, in your brain chemicals. You're responsible for the way you eat. You're responsible for whether or not you spend that time in the morning.
Right.
And, you feel yourself when you start to go down. There's one thing that just the pure heartbreak of something like watching what's going on in Afghanistan. But it's an art. You can feel it. Which is the pure emotion that I just have to ride, and which is this is just, okay, you're spiraling right now, get over yourself, call somebody, see how you can help somebody else. You can feel in yourself the difference between the sort of almost holy sadness of bearing witness to the suffering of God's children, and the sadness that's, hello, darkness, my old friend.
Right.
Satan, that's a kind of Satan, get thee behind me type stuff. When your sadness is based on, I'm no good, nobody likes me, I'm too old, I'm too young, they don't let people like me succeed, blah, blah, blah. That's like, okay, your own version, sacred or secular, Satan, get thee behind me. I'm not going to indulge that.
Right.
And these are the techniques that you develop, whether they are developed through a spiritual or religious practice or secular practice, in taking responsibility for your mind.
Yeah. Marianne Williamson joins us. She is a nationally renowned best-selling author, thought leader, spiritual leader, and she joins us today on Wellness Wednesday on Coping with COVID. Marianne, you recently launched your Transform series. Tell us about that. That's pretty exciting.
Thank you. I'm very excited about it. It's a Substack, and a Substack is a platform. You see the article I put out today. I put out an article pretty much every day, and it's a journey we're all taking together on both personal transformation and global transformation. One day I talk about transforming capitalism. One day I talk about the power of the quiet mind. You'll see every day the articles are different.
Yeah.
Because in order to transform the world, Trey, we're going to have to address both those internal as well as external issues. It's free to join, to subscribe. Just go to mariannewilliamson.substack.com. Some people want to do $5 a month and then get some extra material, but just to subscribe, to have all the material sent to you, it's free, and I hope people will. I feel very strongly about it. I'm pouring my heart into it. So much of what I've learned and so much of what I've experienced, it's cool. I've got a Transform podcast, interviews with various people, my writing, commentary, people's comments, discussion threads. It's a place where we can join together with like-minded people in walking beyond some of these thoughts in our society and in our own minds that are keeping all of us limited, and expand and liberate ourselves from that so we can live in a much better place.
Right. And you can, people can log on again to, and we've got the information on the screen, to mariannewilliamson.substack.com. And you can see the website right there on the right of your screen. Marianne, I want to talk about a couple of quotes that you have done and said from your various 14 books. And I want us to talk about that as we talk about them. And of course, this is probably one of the most quote unquote famous ones. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our fight, is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Why is that? And listen, as a woman, I think we are the worst and the best at, beating ourselves up with the, you've got it in you, but is it the mindfulness that won't allow us to be fearful of who we could be, who God, and I'm a God believer, I'm a Jesus girl, God purposed us to be? What is that?
Well, that quote is from my book, A Return to Love.
Return to Love. Mm-hmm.
And Return to Love is my reflections on the principles in A Course in Miracles, which is, once again, just one statement of universal spiritual truths, no better or worse than any other. Our deepest fear is the ego mind is the mind that would tell you, who do you think you are? The spirit is the mind that would say, you are a child of God, and you are here on assignment from God. And God would have you share the power and the glory that he has given you, to co-create with him, to work with him, to be in service to the healing of the world. It is the ego mind that says, you? Who are you? And yes, I do think women get it more. And that's what misogyny is. And I think that there are all kinds of things. I've seen it in my career, and I didn't see it so much in my spiritual career, but I certainly saw it politically. If a man said it, it was considered, I don't know, he could say it. Why could Cory Booker talk about love and not be laughed at and called
right?
Ragey? So you and I know how a lot of that goes down. And I think that women as well as men have internalized this idea that we're, it's not even that we're less than, but that on some level we should be quiet.
Yeah.
And we all carry in ourselves, I think, the cellular memory of terrible things happening to women who spoke their minds. And when you look at, this is not even gone from the planet. I mean, look at what's happening, the Taliban's attitude towards women. And they're not the only group. I mean, they are a particularly brutal form of it. Let's hope, dear God, that there will be less this time. We don't know yet. Yeah. But there are other places in the world as well where women are not allowed to speak their truth and be all that they can be. In America today, and in any advanced democracy, there's much for us to be grateful for, because there are not external chains on us, but there are internal chains, and they still exist in our heads.
Yeah.
And that is really what that quote is about. Our deepest fear is of shining. Because who am I? Who am I to do this? Or who am I to do that? I was listening to Greta Thunberg on television the other day, and she was talking about the beginning of her work as an environmental activist. She said, I saw things happening, and I said, somebody ought to do something. And then I said to myself, well, I'm a somebody.
Right.
And I also think one of the things that we're learning, and I've heard a lot of people say things to me since my presidential campaign, it's not enough to believe certain things. When you hear other people say them, you must support them, particularly if they're ridiculed for saying them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Marianne Williamson, a best-selling author, thought leader, spiritual leader, has been talking to us today about achieving happiness and mindfulness. She is going to come back in about 3 minutes and leave us with our devotional for the day. As you know, I typically end with a devotional. I read Jesus Calling. Are you familiar with Jesus Calling?
No, not that one, although I'm writing a book about Jesus right now.
Oh, great. Yeah. So Marianne's going to come right back and leave us with some great words. She's going to do our spiritual devotional for the day. But thank you so much for just sharing with us and kind of giving us some of the things we need to kind of focus on and think about and remember to do. I mean, I love that you say it's a daily thing. You've got to do it like you brush your teeth, like you wash yourself.
The muscles of happiness.
Yeah. You've got to work them out.
Yeah, the Course in Miracles says happiness is a decision I must make.
Yeah.
Let's not confuse happiness with adrenaline. There's a quiet, mature happiness that's happiness too.
Yeah. That's good. Marianne will come right back in 1 minute and give us some words to leave us with. Marianne Williamson. Go to her website and go to her Substack. And don't forget to please subscribe so that you can find out more about all the amazing work that she's doing, not only for herself, but for you too. The Substack, as Marianne said, has daily readings, postings, and more information for you to continue to be a better you and work on your mindfulness and work on your mature happiness. I think that's our word for today, our mature happiness. Marianne, we'll be right back in about just about 1 minute with to close the show with you. All right. Thank you. Listen, if you have a story or initiative that can help someone cope with COVID, please go to the Telomere production page on Facebook and inbox us. We would love to feature you or your initiative. If you have a product or service that could help someone cope with COVID, please email copingwithtreytaylor@gmail.com. And we would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, In It Together SC, Palmetto Painting Services, Agape Counseling and Training Services, also Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall, the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina, the Comet Bus System, Javis Tax Service, and the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office, Attorney Byron Gibson. Now, tomorrow, we're going to talk to Senator Mia McLeod and State Representative Ivory Thigpen to discuss what needs to be done to address that mask proviso that was in the state budget. Plus, the Midlands Nurses Association discussed the need for African-American blood donations. Friday, the owners of Rhino Medical Group talk about growing their business during COVID. And Frank Knapp with the Small Business Chamber of Commerce shares how you can survive too. Next Wellness Wednesday, Alzheimer's Awareness Month with Taylor Wilson with the National Alzheimer's Association. And in coming weeks, we'll talk to the folks with the James R. Clark Sickle Cell Foundation and Red Cross to talk about sickle cell awareness. All of that and so much more coming up on Coping with COVID. I'm Trey Taylor. Marianne Williamson rejoins us to end the show. I typically end with a spiritual reading, and I, again, know no one better than to leave us, to uplift us and motivate us. You've started redoing the Course of Miracles, right? I saw that on your website.
Yeah. If you go, I have videos of my reading the workbook exercise and then my doing a little lesson based on them. So people can sign up for that. Yeah, at Marianne.com.
Okay, great. All right.
Marianne, it's called. Okay.
All right. Yes.
Dear God, we thank you for all of the miracles that have occurred in our lives. And we surrender to you all that we have and all that we are. May your spirit come upon us, uplift us above and beyond all the blocks to love, all the things that would limit us. Please take every thought we think, every feeling we feel, and align it with your love. And on this day as well, dear God, we think of the people in Afghanistan, those who suffer, those who are afraid, those who are desperately trying to leave, those who are trying to help them. And also, dear God, put your hand upon the Taliban themselves and remind them of the truth of who they are. That love might truly prevail, that fear shall be no more. Work miracles, dear God, and heal us all. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Marianne Williamson. Thank you so much again, so much for joining us today on Wellness Wednesday. Thank you for your wisdom, for your strength, for your courage, for your enlightenment. And want to remind everyone, don't forget to go to Marianne's website and to the Substack. And don't forget to subscribe, so that you can also be empowered and enlightened. Marianne, thank you again so much for joining us today on Coping with COVID. Peace to you, beautiful. And blessing.
God bless you, darling. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Listen, until the next time, as always, I wish you peace and abundant blessings. Don't forget to be careful, stay safe, and get your vaccine and wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. I'll see you tomorrow.
Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Trey Taylor.